Good.
Yep.
Okay. I'm Brad Seitz with the Game Commission, and I take care of public hunting and fishing areas down by Alexandria, out of the Meridian Wildlife Headquarters. Rick Souerdyke is my assistant, and he's been with me for about 15 years already. So anyhow, we're gonna talk. He put the slides together over some different PowerPoints in the past, and I'm going to present it. And we'll probably go through it kind of quick, but hopefully not too fast. And you'll get something out of how we manage our wetlands. We got 9 areas, wetlands that we manage, 22 total upland riparian areas, but 9 of them are wetland areas. And they're anywhere from 75 acres, 73 acres to 310. So they're small areas with associated upland around them. So the actual wetland footprint is probably anywhere from 20 acres up to 110 on some of these areas. Okay, some of our previous, when I first moved over here, I came from Osage, and all I did was upland work over there. So wetlands was new to me, and I had to learn a new ball game. And of course, I brought in my love for pheasants, and I said, boy, those cattails and bulrush look really good. And they were good for winter pheasants, but didn't do much for ducks. So of course, we got to take care of noxious weeds. We did that. Winter cover for our the fence idea of fence on our wildlife area was to keep cows out. Now we use them to keep cows in, and we did occasional pumping on our areas. And then we do the burning because we did a lot of prescribed fire. But another thing that we did over at Osage, we planted a lot of trees. And so I said, well, we got to do the same thing in our uplands around our wetlands. And so for example, Sandpiper Wildlife Area by Geneva, we planted 10,000 cedars and plum in one day there. I don't know if I should say it, but our director helped do that too. But anyhow, the cedars we didn't need, but the plum that we planted, I kind of like those. And I'll still plant them where we can. And the mindset was get your cows out of the wetland. Well, where we want them is in the wetland. Without cattle, we had a lot of pheasant cover. We had a lot of cattail, bulrush, reed canary, and no place for our ducks to go. And like most of us know, the purpose of our rainwater basin is migratory waterfowl. They got to have a place to rest, to build up their fat reserves. So we needed to get there. And it took me a little while, but I think we're getting there. And I feel real good about some of the wetlands we manage now. We used to just burn only. Only problem with burning is it gets rid of all the litter and the mulch and stuff, but it comes back like gangbusters. So you got to tie burning in with grazing or spraying or disking or something like that. Short-term thing, we mowed cattails. You know, we'd go in, here's Rick here, and our temporary Jason Sykes. At that time, that was back in the early 2000s, spraying cattail with a boat. You know, a lot of labor intensive. Maybe that's why Jason went to Missouri. But anyhow, it worked, but not very effectively. So we did different things, pumping. We just said, well, we got to get some water and landscape for our duck hunters. And I still feel strongly about that, but we do it a little differently. And we think about the future of pumping too when we do this type of management. Things started changing. We started implementing more diverse management objectives, more tools. Mainly in the late 90s, we prescribed fire with grazing, mechanical disturbance. We did grazing, tilling, mowing, you know, then the chemical application, which I think is huge. chemical and grazing is one of my two main management practices that really benefit ongoing water or wetland areas each year. So we'll kind of get into that a little more. But we did some restoration, some actual removal of silt, filling in pits. And so we did a lot of different things. Our goal now is to provide moist soil annual seed producing plants, which is mainly your barnyard grass and annual smartweed. Those are the two that I want to see on my areas and that ducks want to see on my areas. So we really work to get that. Provide open water, we work on that. And then, you know, so they can utilize this 30 days in the winter, spring, and 30 days in the fall to get shot at. So some of our tools, you know, initially we use rotavator till. We don't do a lot of that, very little, if any of that. Disking here, we had Tim Horse with Ducks Unlimited, and he has a machine. He came out and disked some of our areas. They disked their areas. Definitely used for that. We did some excavation area and removal of silt, but the one right in the middle is really important, is our cattle grazing. And then we tie it right in with our spraying. You know, you hate to see too much chemical on the ground, but these two in combination, glyphosate use, really has maintained our wetlands where we want them. Of course, we incorporate burning, and then we have wells. We have a lot of partners. DU is a big one, providing wells on some of our areas, and then some of the mowing there. Spry burning, you know, accumulates matter over time. So we'll facilitate that with grazing. Like I said before, you can't just burn. You got to come in with cattle right away, because cattail and bulrush, they just love burning, and they'll come out even worse. So we'll involve cattle, intensive grazing. We graze with high numbers. We want to pound with undesirable vegetation, your bulrush, your cattail, your reed canary. And then also that soil compassion reduces organic buildup, reduces that matter buildup. And you want to time your grazing too. Usually you want to graze our wetlands starting in March, but a lot of times I can't get cows out there till maybe April and May, but hit it really hard when the reed canary is just coming on. Your bulrush, get ahead of your bulrush and your cattail if you have it, and any other undesirables. You know, there's perennial smartweed. It's, you know, produces a little seed, but it's not like annual. So we like to set that back. So the timing is important. We'll get on a little bit, and also conditions decide on what timing you're going to do. We graze the upland adjacent to the buffers to the wetland. Most of our wetlands all have, the wetland footprint have a peripheral of upland high diversity, native grass, wildflowers, pollinators, which makes it great for the pheasants, but we'll occasionally graze those, you know, maybe after the pheasant nesting season in July and August. Going back a few years, this is when we used to take care of Kissinger Basin. This is an area right by Fairfield. Just right beside it was Brian Shaw and Steve Shaw. Brian used to play football for Nebraska when they were good. And he's a grazer for me on a couple of my areas. I know he grazes Justin Haar's ground. Justin takes care of this area now out in more of the western areas. But we pounded this in March, put his cows out there, and then that following fall, another slide. We didn't get one in the middle of the season, but that grass and just responds. Grazing is a good tool, need to use it. I'd hate to not have it anymore. This is on a federal area, grazing green up. You know, they did a burn, and see the skid loader tree removal. We want to remove trees, especially in our footprint of our wetland. And this here is Father Hupp, which is over by Bruning, one of our very popular areas, hunting areas. But we graze this in August. I grazed it through July. I think they got in there June, July, even into August. But in 19, we had really good rains, heavy rains. And so you can see here, cattle still out, and they aren't even staying ahead of the barnyard grass. And you can notice we don't have very little river bulrush and reed canary. We've really controlled that through grazing and spraying. Some of the mechanical though we've used in the past, disking and tilling. We don't till anymore. The problem with tilling is you can till here and we try to get the tubers and the roots up on the surface and then let them dry out for 3 or 4 months. But if you don't have the conditions, it's just going to replanting it. And so it's real intensive. It works for a season. And then also the heavy disking, like I told you about Tim Orsh coming in or a contractor coming in. Excuse me. But it works to an extent. But our aerial spraying through Rainwater Basin, they coordinate that, does a really good job. I really appreciate them coming in and providing the funding to do that. And they'll even do the contracting of it. And we'll send them the maps of what we want. And we'll spray like in Reed Canary Gas, Rich Walters with Nature Conservancy. I think he's with them still. He used to be with the Game Commission. But anyhow, he did a study on Reed Canary, and right after August 15th, when it seeds out, is it's most susceptible to chemicals. So that's the best time to spray it. But we'll spray like the middle of August through, into September, first 2 weeks in September, try to avoid the teal season, and do aerial spraying to control bulrush and cattail also. And we've seen tremendous response to that. You know, if there's water on some of our footprint, we'll go with a rodeo, glyphosate, or else we'll go with a generic for the rest of it. But we got a couple local contractors that do it and do a really good job and real precise with it. Some of the other restorations we'll do is more intensive. We've done scraping, there's silt removal, filling in pits. Private lands does a lot of that work, renovation there, but we want to restore the hydric footprint. And so there'll be silt removal, filling the pits. Maybe we'll have some water control structures, the wells. Ducks Unlimited provided a lot of wells over the years. This here is a shot of Green Head. I don't manage that area either anymore. Justin Har has this. Here's a shot of clear back in '98. One of our first big projects was Kissinger Basin. We actually tried to pump the water out of the wetland by taking a pipeline along the road, went up and over a hill to get rid of this water so they could go in and do the work. But this pit was a 23-acre pit and filled that thing up. I thought, man, that's where my duck's going to land. But I found out differently. Now it's a really beautiful wetland. And but this is a real busy slide. You can see what we did in '06. Had 3 paddocks. This is upland, and then the wetland. And we were grazing different times. And then we try to get in if it was dry and disc and till. We get the NRCS to find out where the silt's at and what kind of fills on our wetland areas before we do any work. We had hand probes. Actually, we did mapping. This here shows, I don't know what wetland this is. Some of you others that knows our areas might remember, but you can see we had fill from 6 to 12 inches that come off of the adjacent crop. See a pivot here, different irrigated. Pivots have really helped slow down the silt, but we had a lot of flood irrigation back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So a lot of silt went into these wetlands. And you can see we need to remove some of those. Maybe grazing would work. Here's a normal wetland profile. This is how deep the clay lands is. And when you do work, you want to make sure you don't go too deep to hurt that clay lands, to open that up, and you don't want to drain your wetland. This is Bluewing south of Clay Center back in 2006, I think. We did sediment removal, 6 inches over 18 acres. And I think Justin feels real good about this wetland now. Sora is one that I manage now currently. 04 Ducks Unlimited did a project with us. They did the funding, engineering. Mitch Messner was involved in that. Also, we provided a well.
3 minutes.
10 minutes?
3.
3 minutes, oh my gosh. Okay, fill the pit, green head, some of the work we've done here. The thing when I get is be aggressive. You gotta, you know, this is what you want it to look like usually, but you can see the cattail coming in. So you're gonna stay after it. I always manage with the hunter in mind. They pay a lot of our fees, a lot of taxes, a lot of gun, excise taxes. So we can do both out there. There's a few pheasants left. Ducks are good. Prairie Plains has helped us seed. It's an ongoing dynamic. When God gets you an opportunity, you got to pounce. Shorebird consideration, pumping. Provide staging area for migratory waterfowl. Provide hunting opportunities and restore the hydrology. You got to worry about the future. We have private lands utilization. We're losing grazers because everything's in crop. So I went through it quick there at last, but a couple of questions, I'll take them.
Okay, so I'm going to hit stop record here.